Hi everyone and welcome. In today's video I wanted to show you guys my custom cape that I did for my NECA Shredder that came from this year's Comic-Con exclusive of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 8-pack. Now this is a really awesome figure because this is the figure based off of the 1984 cartoon, or 85 cartoon I believe, from the Ninja Turtles, which is one of the first cartoons that I remember seeing as a child. And it's a really awesome looking figure. And the thing that I did not really like about the figure was only the fabric cape. It's a great cape, no doubt about that. It's great that they did that instead of doing a plastic cape. However, it didn't drape well for me and I felt like it needed to have an improvement. So I ended up making a new cape, and as you can see, this is the cape that I made. It's really great because you can have a full spread of it. It's a little wrinkled because it's been hanging there for a bit, but it's a really cool spread, but it drapes down really nicely, so it makes it look like it's very menacing. And you can always put it over his shoulders and it looks really cool. Kind of looks like the way the movie version of Shredder had when he had the cape over his shoulder spike things here. But enough of that. I actually want to show you guys how I did this, and I hope you guys are able to do this, so let's check this out. The first thing you're going to need is fabric. Now the fabric that I am using here is the same fabric that I use for a lot of my other custom cape figures, and it consists of 95% rayon and 5% spandex. Now I picked this fabric specifically up at Joann Fabrics in the knit section, and it's called Potent Purple. It's a very nice fabric and it's very soft to the touch and it drapes very well. Now what I'm using here is a slab of it, so you don't really need much. You can always just buy a little bit and just make the cape and be done with it. But the size that I'm using here is basically it's roughly 17 inches by 8.5 I think inches. So what you're gonna need first is you're gonna need a ruler. Now this ruler is a 18-inch ruler, and you want to just slightly place it in the top of this so that you can create a straight line on the bottom of the fabric. The second thing you're going to need is a rotary cutter so that you can use to cut straight across the bottom of the ruler. So let's just do that. And you just pull this off, and now you have a straight edge in the bottom of this fabric. Now the next thing you're going to need is a 12-inch pizza pan. I picked up this pizza pan at Walmart. It's very accessible. You can pick these up anywhere. I specifically picked this one up because the measurement from across here is exactly 12 inches, whereas other pizza pans may be longer, and I mainly use this a lot for a lot of custom capes that I do. And the next thing you want to do is, when you want to get either some tape or if you have a really good marker, you want to mark up the edges from one end to the other that will create the midpoint of the pizza pan, because that will give you the halfway point in helping you create the cape for Shredder. Now placing the pizza pan upside down on top of the fabric, the midpoints of the pizza pan are marked with one line in each end. So you want to correspond these markings with the edge of the fabric so that it creates the halfway circle of this pizza pan. Next you want to grab is your rotary cutter again, gently holding the pizza pan down and then following it onto the edge of the pizza pan and cutting. Once you finish cutting that, you want to gently pull this off, and you want to discard the rest of this, or if you want to use it for something else, it's great. Take this off, and now you have yourself 90% of the cape that we're going to be using for your Shredder. Now that you have your fabric cape partially cut, what we want to do now is find the midpoint of this cape. Now because it is measured exactly 12 inches, the midpoint will be right here. And using a fabric pen, I'm using a white marking pen, which will go on and it will create a white line on there. And in order for me to get that white line off, I will use a iron, which will make it disappear, which is great because that way I don't have to worry about the marks being left behind. So once we figured out what's the midpoint area, we want to get a ruler and lay it straight across, making sure everything is perfect as best you can. Then you're just gonna use the pen and slightly move it across. Don't use it too harshly. Just want to make sure it starts to get on there. Once it's marked, we just let it dry for a little bit. After a few seconds, the white line has already appeared, and that will help you create a guide into where you're going to place the hole for the neck for the shredder. Now, if you look at the old version of the cape, it's right here, and it's made mostly of a polyester, so which is why it's somewhat stiff, and it needs help creating like a natural type of like a drape. As you can see, there's from the actual bottom of the cape to the neck, it's about, I would say, an inch. Let me see if I can measure that correctly. It's probably about an inch to, or if not 3/4 of an inch. And you want to use that as a reference point so that when you actually use it on here, you want to go and place it on there and figure out the 3/4 inch mark. So you figure that out. You want to mark it there. Get your ruler again and just mark it across again slightly, and then just wait for it to dry. Now with the X finally visible on the midpoint of where the neck will end up being, what you want to do is you want to get the other cape, place it right on top so that you see it almost touching the crosshair area, and then you just want to use your marker and you just want to slightly go around, creating the hole for where the neck will end up going. Now that the neckway has been created, all you got to do now is using a small pair of scissors. I recommend using precision scissors so that you can easily cut it through. You're just gonna slightly cut in there and start cutting around that edge area. And you are pretty much done. If you flip it over, it's the same thing. It's no difference. The end result is that you're gonna get this cape compared to the cape that came with the original figure. Now there is a color difference, as you can see. This one's a little bit more of a I don't know, it's they're both purple, they're just different shades of purple. I can't tell you exactly what purple it is, but they're both the different versions of it. Now as you can see, this one right here had been stitched on the top of the neck area to create a more of a drape feeling and to allow it to go behind the neck and the shoulder guards for the shredder, whereas this one drapes very nicely and it looks very soft. And placing this one on the neck of this figure wasn't too difficult. All you had to really do is you had to heat up the neck area with using a hair dryer, and then you had to pop it off. Now when you pop it off, the head itself will pop off with the neck, but the ball joint that connects to the neck, so then you'll have like two separated pieces there. That's fine, that's the way it's supposed to pop off. And then from there you can just place in the cape onto the figure. Now something that I wanted to also mention, which is really cool, is that when I ended up looking at the head after I took it off from the neck, I noticed right underneath that NECA went the extra mile and actually sculpted the hair that goes behind his helmet. It's not painted or whatever, but it looks really, really nice, and it shows you the great attention to detail that NECA does. So what I ended up doing is that I ended up taping part of that area and then painting it black, so it creates like he's got hair in the back. I'm not quite sure if you can tell in this video, but it's there and it's really cool looking. But that's like something extra if you want to do. But once you put on the cape and you pop in the head, this is what you'll get. You'll have the fabric cape draping very nicely behind it without any problems whatsoever, and then you'll have yourself a really badass looking shredder. One more thing I want to mention is once you finish creating your cape and cutting it and everything, you may want to use a iron and slightly iron this piece of fabric down. Because it is made of 95% rayon, you want to use it on low level heat so that it doesn't burn the fabric or create any kind of like marks on it. So you just lightly iron this down just to get rid of the wrinkles, and then you put it onto the shredder and it'll look just great. So the end result, as you can see, is pretty amazing. The cape just looks so nicely, it drapes well, and it just looks a little bit better than what the one that it came with straight out of the package. Now, I mean, you're gonna have the cape be a bit short in the bottom, and that's fine because that's the way it was in the cartoon, and it's a great representation of how it needs to look like in figure form. But I hope this video was helpful, you guys. I hope that you guys decide to make this cape and have it for your collection, because this is actually one of the best Shredder figures we will ever get. And I really hope, it's a long time waiting, and I really hope you guys try to make this and stuff like that. But if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and leave your comments below on the video. And if you liked the video, please press like button, subscribe, and I hope you guys have a good day.